Today's guest is Samara Schulman. She is the president of OnPoint Consulting, a technology and consulting firm in the government contracting space. And Samara and I both participate in the ACT-IAC community. Many of you have heard me talk about this before. It's here in the DC area. And that's where Samara and I ran into each other at a membership meeting, and we kind of interact in the DC space. You just never know when we're going to run into each other. But I want to thank you for joining me today, Samara.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, Jeremy.
So for those who have not had a chance to meet you at an event where we have a kind of happy hour hangout time, talk a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and where you're from.
Sure. I think those who have met me at happy hour events probably don't know the whole background, but I mean, starting early on, I'm originally from outside of Pittsburgh. I'm actually from Bethel Park. So if anybody's a fan of the show This Is Us, that's where the Pearsons are from. Grew up there and went to high school there, finished, and wasn't sure what I wanted to do at that point. I was good in science and math. Looking back, I got good grades in all the subjects, but at that point, a girl in science and math, and it was, well, we want to try engineering. So I did. I applied. I got into the College of Engineering at Cornell University. I started as a computer science engineering major. I lasted a semester with that. I decided it was not for me. I transferred internally into arts and sciences and finished with a history degree.
Oh.
Yeah, I know that that's a little underwhelming to the initial, wow, computer science engineering. But nonetheless, I love my experience there. And all kidding aside, it's one of those things I would not trade for anything in the world. And the courses and just what I was able to take there helped get me where I am today. But from there, I went on to work for Hillel, which is the Jewish campus organization. And I did a program through there. And I worked in Cleveland, Ohio. I've got family in Akron, so it was great for me. It's 2 hours from Pittsburgh, and nice to be able to just hop in a car and see family and everything. It was a rough year. I went on, my next placement was at the University of Michigan, and that was awesome. I thought at that point I wanted to keep working with campus organizations. The second year that I was at Michigan, I also got my master's in education. Again, pretty far from what I'm doing today. But I think I do have an interesting reason as to why I did that. One of my best friends at the time and my roommate was getting a degree in education. And I remember just the stories she would tell that, oh, today I did this art project with second graders, and this kid was behind and they didn't even think that they wouldn't be able to cut at the same speed, and all this different stuff that just came naturally fascinated me. And I realized about myself that I just love learning, and I think it's incredibly fascinating to pay attention to how people learn and training and everything. So the master's in education wasn't too far off. I never wanted to teach. I'll be very, very clear about that. But I specialized in curriculum development, and I thought that I would stick with writing curriculum for these different organizations and whatnot. After Michigan, I wanted to move down to DC and was just interviewing anywhere that I could find the word education. And I came upon the Princeton Review. I moved down here, had the interview within a few days, and I remember, because as you can imagine, my parents weren't so thrilled with, what do you mean you're moving from Michigan to DC? You don't have a job lined up? Had a great interview, had a great conversation, got that job, and started there. I was overseeing the GRE and LSAT program and worked my way up there. I was there for about 5 years, finished as executive director of the entire DC, Virginia, Maryland area. Awesome opportunity. Had a mentor who just was incredible for me. But after 5 years, it started to just get the same every day, and I was ready for something new. Started looking at different positions and whatnot, and came upon a recruiting opening at OnPoint Consulting. Went for that interview, got called in, and I remember within about 10 minutes, one of the VPs at the time, one of the co-founders, was asking me, well, why did you apply for recruiting? And I said, well, it's something I know I can do. I just managed, I recruited, I hired, I fired 180 something teacher pool at the Princeton Review. I know I can handle that. And he said, all right, well, we want you here, but not for recruiting. Just give me a few days, I'll call you back and let me figure out where we can put you. Shortly thereafter, I started at OnPoint as a project control analyst. I remember when I got the call and the job offer, I went straight to Borders and bought like project management for dummies and a EVMS book. And I remember again, my conversation with my dad at that point was him saying, do you know what you're doing? I said, yeah, I can figure this out. I got this. But the truth of the matter is that I had the skills, even if I hadn't been in this industry yet. I had done like I said, the human capital management portion of it, managing to a P&L, dealing with a budget of millions of dollars, your costs, your revenue, your marketing, all of that sort of stuff. I had those skills, and to my luck, somebody saw that in me. And I've been at OnPoint ever since. I've been, next month will be 13 years actually at OnPoint. Started as a project control analyst, worked my way up there as well. Any job that I could do at OnPoint, I took on. At one point, I became billable on a project that we had with the NNSA as a procurement officer. I said, all right, I can figure out procurement and talk about the FAR and all those rules and the threshold and whatnot. But it was, and it continues to be just an awesome place and an awesome learning environment, and fit what I was looking for. And quite frankly, it fits what I look for in positions. Yeah, I mean, I kept working my way up, like I said, and I oversaw a few of our projects. I worked closely with the project managers, not just on the financial aspect, wrote trainings for the project managers. Then it got to the point that, well, we needed something with contracts. And my boss, another fabulous mentor, would say, all right, we'll go ask so-and-so and learn it. And I had a question about pricing. We'll go ask so-and-so and learn it. And I was like, this is awesome. And just the entire team was so warm and welcoming to share their knowledge. I mean, I remember many a time somebody taking, all right, well, here's how you get this number, and a marker to a whiteboard and explaining it to me. And all right, I got it. And that was that. But at OnPoint, I mean, I continue to learn. We were actually acquired in 2014. Talk about a wonderful learning experience. Our parent company is Sapient Government Services, and they're a fabulous company. They do different things and did different things than us at the time. So we focus on cybersecurity, infrastructure, enterprise architecture, things of that nature. We have facility clearance. We had work, primary work at the time at least was, like I said, DOE and NNSA and State Department and DOD. They didn't. They focus much more on strategic communication. They're huge in health IT. They do user experience, user design, websites, all that sort of stuff. And so it was great. It was a great acquisition. Until a year later, we were all bought by a French company named Publicis Group. Then the learning curve got a lot more fun. As you can imagine, they're a French company, and the US government is not so high on being owned by outside governments, outside countries rather. So we proxied ourselves off. And that was a whole different learning experience. So we're a FOCI mitigated proxy organization, and we operate as just an entirely separate entity and business unit of Publicis Group. And with that, as you can imagine, come challenges. There are good things that we've got a great working relationship with Sapient Government Services and work well back and forth with them. The challenges, a lot of them lie within our size. With affiliation rules, we're a large, revenue-wise, we're technically a small, and anybody in this industry can fill in the rest of the blanks. But that's I'm
Wow.
trying to think. I think that's pretty much my backstory. That's why people at happy hours don't get all that. So.
And that's an interesting challenge. Well, so I'm gonna roll back and ask a couple questions. So, how did you decide where you wanted to go to college to begin with? Was it just a foregone conclusion? Is it a family thing?
That's a really great decision. In high school, I had done a couple different programs, I remember one was called PFEW. I don't, Pennsylvania something, something, something. For a week at, I think it was Shenandoah University, centered on business. I did another week-long something somewhere again. I spent a summer working at a bank in, not like not the call center, but behind the scenes kind of thing. I spent a
Mhm.
summer in New York. I had all these different adventures and everything and all these different experiences, but I really wanted to go to Penn State. I'm from outside Pittsburgh. I don't know, half my class was going to Penn State. I wanted to go with friends, and on a whim, I remember my mom and my brother picked me up from one of these week-long programs, and I thought, great, we're gonna go look at Penn State. And my mom said, no, we're gonna go look at Cornell University. And I don't know how many people listen to this. I can't even begin to tell you how long I cried in that car ride for the 6 hours to Cornell University. But I loved it. I mean, once I saw it, it was just, it's a great size. It's not huge. It's also not small. I mean, you can't beat it scholastically and academically, and just turned out to be a fabulous fit for me.
Yeah, it's well known as a solid university, right? So it's not kind of controversial in any way, and yeah, it's good. That's interesting. And then your first job was with campus organizations. Did that naturally come about from your experience there?
Yeah, I was very active in that organization, and I remember applying to other positions. I don't even remember what types of positions I was looking at. History, I imagine it was a lot of research stuff. Um, but yeah, so I also applied to a program that they ran and got accepted to that.
I think that's something that a lot of people overlook when they're in school is the opportunities for those on-campus organizations they have to hire.
Yes.
And the field is rich if you will participate in those organizations, or even if you didn't get hired by the organization, participation in those organizations can make or break opportunities, other job opportunities. So it's something I always, when I talk to people who are considering college or in college, plotting their stuff, I'm like, participate in everything you can possibly participate in. You never know where your next job's going to come from.
Yeah, very, very true.
So, and then because my family's from Michigan, I'm very happy to hear the Michigan.
Oh, yeah, go Wolverines.
Yes, go Wolverines. My grandparents would always send me Tigers, Detroit Tigers stuff, and Wolverines gear all through my upbringing. So that's really great.
Nice. Go blue. Yeah, I always say I went from a college that fewer than 10 people went to the football games to a Big Ten school where I
Yeah,
think last count was 107,000 or something, the stadium seats there. So
but I think if you're going to a Michigan school and you're from Pennsylvania, how do you get through Ohio?
actually, I will tell you, my family is very split. I've got two cousins, and my brother went to University of Michigan. My brother's younger than me, but did undergrad there. So as he was finishing was when I was starting. And my other cousins, my mom and my two aunts all went to Ohio State.
Oh
So
no.
that Saturday before Thanksgiving is a lot of fun in our household.
That's fantastic. And then I'm just curious, how did you learn about OnPoint? Was that just something you were just looking for jobs online, or did you
Oh
know
yeah,
somebody?
that was it. And it's one of those that, knock on wood, it worked out for me. But it's like you said, I think now to networking and to just the conversations and watching people switching companies and switching types of companies, even if they stay within industry. Um, and then I remember how powerful it was to just look on monster.com and there was the position, and how lucky I was to get a call and get called in.
Yeah, and then one last thing on the career part. So what I heard as you talked about your positions and opportunities at OnPoint, what I heard is you said yes a lot when somebody said, try this, or an opportunity came up and you participated. And once again, I'll tell you, I do a lot of mentoring for career people. And that's one of my key points for them is if somebody in your management asks if you would consider doing something, why would you say no?
Right.
Take advantage of the opportunity, because look at you now, all of those different opportunities and experience of the broad spectrum of what OnPoint does. You probably never planned to be the president.
No, never.
Right. But that experience certainly prepped you for that.
Yes, I'm not sure the people who hired me can believe that this is the president, but no, all kidding aside, I still keep in touch with all of them. But yeah, no, absolutely. I will say for mentoring and whatnot is so darn important to pay attention as you're going through your path, even if you're not happy somewhere. And I know I mentioned a couple bosses who were just fabulous mentors. I just admired what they did, how they did it. I also had ones who were not. And I watched to see what I did not want to do when I did work my way up. So that like you were saying, it's paying attention, I think, a lot too.
Yeah, it's very important. So
Yeah.
as you went through your kind of career journey, I'd be very curious, when you look back, is there something that you experienced or witnessed that you said, man, I wish we didn't do that way? It's a
Oh, a lot.
stumbling block, right? And so I'm very curious, if we came to you, Samara, and said, you have the power to make a change that could make things better, right, in our industry or in that pathway, what might that be for you?
Uh, I think there are a few things. You know, we were talking a little bit before this podcast, and we are talking about ACT-IAC. I'm very involved in the Evolving the Workforce community of interest there. It's not because OnPoint is constantly hiring 50 people a week. Just workforce and recruiting has always been an interest of mine, and finding and putting together the right teams and helping to cultivate that culture. So in terms of, and I don't have any solutions, nor do I claim to, but there's something with recruiting, and it's been a while since I've been on a high school or college campus, but in high school, the Army would come one time a year in the cafeteria for 3 days. And that was all I knew. I mean, I didn't know about government contracting. I didn't know about it until I mean, I could make assumptions. Let's be clear, but I didn't know the ins and outs of the industry. I didn't understand that um everything from transportation, the GSA buys, the cars that are used for federal works. I didn't realize all that was contracts. I didn't realize custodial services, things of that nature, all services that are contracted. And there's got to be some sort. I mean, I look at like the US Digital Corps. It's doing a fabulous job. It's an awesome program. It's only what I think 3-ish years old. Those are the types of programs that I really hope are reaching out to high schools everywhere, especially this day and age when you don't need to specifically live here. And here, I mean, in the DMV, in the DC area. But I hope that we are recruiting and not just looking for IT centric or for kids who think they want to do IT things, because somebody like me who thought I wanted to do IT and then went the other route and then came back in a different manner, there's just a ton of opportunities to learn about.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know the answer or the solution to, that challenge of recruiting and getting people in high school and college to consider the federal government as in the government space, right? How do you support either from the vendor side, right, industry side, supporting government, which there's a lot. People don't realize how much we contract out.
Yeah.
My last federal agency I worked at, we only had 330 employees, and we had as much or more who were contracting to support all the work we did.
It's
Yeah, and then of course you scale that up to bigger agencies, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's a really great point that we need the next generation to be involved in public service in some form or fashion.
yeah. And somehow we need to reach them.
Yes.
where they're at, which I know the PMA speaks to it and all the different documents out there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's so darn important to make sure that we are just being visible, both industry as well as, and I mean, you do have industry. I remember career fairs at college and the bigger companies representing and whatnot. But there's just so much more even past that.
Yeah. So what's next? What's coming up for you in this I don't know, next year?
Well, I think on the it's funny, my kids just walked in from school, so I was gonna say, well, I love baseball and summer camps, but on the professional side, I think there's a lot of teaming and partnership opportunities coming up for OnPoint. It's interesting when you ask the previous question of, well, what would you change and kind of do differently and this and that. When I made the joke that, oh yes, there's been a lot over the past couple of years, we just completely revamped the way that we've been doing business development. And I won't list off the different ways, but we've just changed a ton. And one of the things that we're now focusing on, I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, everybody wants to win, is really putting together the right strategic team to
Mm,
accomplish these different missions for government and just being a part of the cool stuff going on in government. I mean, there's so much stuff, there's so much technology, everything is changing so quickly. And rather than saying, hey, we can do this work by ourselves, which I'm confident we could, why not try to be a part and put together the best team strategically who has done this over there and who has done this over there and presenting as that. So on that front, we've just spent as well the past year and a half meeting a ton of different companies within industry and just having fabulous conversations and figuring out who's a good fit for this and who's a good fit for that. So over this next year and further on, um, I think that's where our opportunities are, and that's what I'm excited to watch for at OnPoint. At the same time, it's also, like we mentioned before, just cultivating the culture, keeping the team. I don't want to say the right team, but making sure that we're setting expectations, whether we're bringing on people or people leave, and all that kind of stuff, putting together the right project teams. I'm huge on that. And I think it is so darn important for our customers, yes, but also internally. Internal motivation, intrinsic motivation, all of that kind of stuff. Huge proponent.
wow.
So
Well, that's
busy years.
yeah. Well, it sounds like a great plan and a great payoff as somebody on the government side. I love it when somebody thinks through the strategic value of the team makeup. So I can't wait to see how that works out for you.
That sounds good.
Well, thank you so much, Samara, for coming on the podcast today. I really enjoyed hearing your story.
Thank you. I appreciate the conversation, and I'm also looking forward to hearing more of the conversations that you're having.